What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, I wanted to show this one speech. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this speech is over 59 years old, 58, 59 years old, because it was initially recorded in 1965 by the likes of a guy by the name of Paul Harvey. And the speech is called "If I Were the Devil." I know some of you may wonder, what does this have to do with anything? My main focus and objective for showing this speech, because I'm going to give my 2 cents on behalf of it, is just to show how it still resonates and is relevant to the conditions of our community, in other words, the Black American community, African American community. How, where I just let you see the clip. And once again, after I'm done showing the clip, I'm going to, like always, give my 2 cents on it and my perspective.
If I were the devil, if I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree, thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old, I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
Now, I know a lot of you are curious and are wondering, how does this video apply to anything? And let me explain. I'm comparing this video to how It resonates with our community, the dysfunction of the African American community. Case in point, how many of you may have that one relative who's always engaging in all kinds of dysfunctional and criminal activities, the same types of relatives who can't stay out of jail and in the worst case scenario has been incarcerated due to them murdering somebody. The same types of relatives, y'all, who y'all do all y'all can to throw welcome back parties, welcome back home parties once they get discharged from prison. The same types of relatives who you should do all you can to alienate from, alienate yourselves from, not deal with at all. But instead, you decide, a lot of you choose to alienate yourselves from that one family member who may have everything going just fine, just perfect for themselves. I'm referring to that one relative in your family who may happen to be, out of everybody else in the family, happen to break the generational curse, who may happen to be a doctor or usually a lawyer, engineer, accountant. That one relative who's never ever had a criminal record, never gotten in trouble with the law at all. Those are the same types of relatives that in a lot of our families in the African American community, we consider as sellouts, and who we consider as lame, who we go out of our ways to alienate ourselves from, who we go out of our ways to say all kind of mean and derogatory things about. But anytime we may have that one relative, and I'm referring once again to our community, that's always doing some of the most dysfunctional things, including that one female in the family who's had kids, so many kids out of wedlock. Those are the same ones who you rush to reward with baby showers. Unlike that one female relative who may have been married, may have decided to marry, then have kids by doing things the both godly and the traditional way. Those are the types of females you go out of your ways not to choose to, that you choose not to associate with, that you alienate yourselves from, who you may consider as the black sheep of the family, due to them living such a good life and due to how they believe in godly principles. Those are the same types of people in our families, unfortunately, in our communities, who we look down upon, who we shame, who we demean. But anytime it may be, once again, that one relative that's been in troubles and stays in trouble with the law, has been incarcerated, we look at them as a god, as a hero in our family. And not just in the family, our very own family, but in the communities. Anytime we may, for instance, have a guy in the community who happens to have so many kids out of wedlock by so many women, those are the main types of men in our communities who we look up on, look up to, excuse me, who we do all we can to praise, worship, idolize, due to how a lot of us, although we're not any much longer enslaved anymore or held captive by chains, unlike way back during the slavery days, let's not forget, people, and don't get it twisted, a whole lot of us in our community are enslaved mentally, enslaved in the mind, due to how we always praise dysfunction in our families. And how many of you could relate to being that one person on a job who goes to work to mind your own business, doesn't bother anybody, who is more to yourself, just goes to work for the most part to make an honest living? Think about how many times you may have been demeaned, how many times you may have been, in some cases, picked on, who may have had you are the same people that may have had your name slandered by co-workers of yours. If not co-workers, usually either supervisors, managers. But anytime it may come that one co-worker of yours that's always a troublemaker on the job, always who carries themselves in such an unruly way, such a I guess you could say non-moral way. Those same types who like to stir up so much confusion on the job, who are ghetto, and as we use in today's terminology, ratchet. Those are the main types who are the most looked up upon, who people idolize most on the job. That one black co-worker that people may go out of their ways to throw parties for every once in a while, even invite to hang out with them when they're usually not working. Unlike you being the person, the upstanding person who's on the job, who doesn't bother anybody, goes and do your job, and just so you can be able to make ends meet, make an honest living, you're the main type of person who they hate. And it's due to the simple fact of how, for the longest, us as black people have been trained to hate what's good, but love what is bad, due to how we was trained during the slavery times. And how many of you could also relate to how we're always bickering with one another as a whole, as a community? Because I think about, as a prime example, how it's so many black on black murders in the black communities, and they will continue to remain. A perfect example will be just recently, around 2 weeks ago, in my hometown of Birmingham, that happened to be a shootout at a gas station, and it was between, judging from the article, some much younger guys who just started shooting at each other for no reason at all, and fired, believe it or not, over 150 rounds. Must I remind you, there were several people who happened to be critically hospitalized with life-threatening injuries, who had to be hospitalized with life-threatening injuries. One of them happened to die, who wasn't even from Birmingham. He happened to come all the way from Tennessee. I'm assuming just probably to visit family. And how many of you can relate to there being so many in practically every major city all over the nation, so many stories in the news of black on black crimes? Let me not also mention how African American women, a lot of you are the main leaders or lead the nation in STDs, abortions, out of wedlock kids, due to how the devil has so much of a spiritual stronghold on the African American community, to the point where it's pretty much no hope for the African American community at all. And due to how we praise this function, because how many times have you heard a song as of lately about how many women by the likes of either Sexy Red, Ice Spice, Meg the Stallion, Sukiana, how they like to brag in their songs about being very sexually uninhibited, very sexually liberated. For some of you who may want me to summarize it or break it down into layman's terms, are very promiscuous, because gone are the days when women believe in carrying themselves in such a moral way or moralistic way, however you would say it, whereas they believed in meeting that one guy who they could be able to start a very own family with, first marry, then start a very own family with, build a strong, solid family structure with, and be faithful for the rest of their lives to that one man, due to how so many younger women, black women specifically, are taught to always have kids then marry, or in most cases have kids without marrying at all, because they look at that as traditional. Well, they also not only look at it as traditional, but they look at it as corny as well. They look at it as not being beneficial to them due to how so many of them are misled by Satan, and how they don't, most people in our community don't put the Most High first anymore, due to the simple fact of how we are so obsessed with what's in, with the latest trends, was what's cool. Anyways, I'm going to close out this video, and before I end the video, I wanted you to first and foremost like the video, share it, comment to let me know how you feel about the feedback that I just gave. Last but not least, make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. Until next time, you guys have a good one.